This is macOS Ken.
Updates on updates from Apple. Apple Car plans reportedly tap the brakes again. And Oscar noms for Apple Originals. It is Wednesday, the 24th of January, 2024. I'm Ken Ray, and this is news from macOS Ken. Brought to you by yours truly and supported by people like you, patrons through Patreon. Find out more and add your support at patreon.com/macOSKen. If you were holding off on updating your Apple Watch because you like its blood oxygen sensing capability and want to keep that around, a piece from Cult of Mac confirms you can go ahead and update. I told you yesterday about the release of a number of operating system updates from Apple, including the release of watchOS 10.3. That brought with it the Unity watch face honoring Black History Month, performance improvements, and security updates. It may also have brought concerns. The Cult of Mac piece says some watch owners may have been hesitant about installing the just-released watchOS 10.3 update over concerns that it might remove the blood oxygen application. Such fears would have been tied to the moves Apple made last week to keep Apple Watch Series 9 and Apple Watch Ultra 2 selling in the States. Those devices had been barred from import by the U.S. International Trade Commission for allegedly violating a patent held by medical technology firm Masimo. To get around the ban, Apple implemented a software change on incoming watches, killing the blood oxygen sensing capability. All of that said, it seemed incredibly unlikely that this update would affect watches already out there. Apple said last week that the changes for new watches would lead to no impact to Apple Watch units previously purchased that include the blood oxygen feature. Still, some may have worried. Now the Cult says, no need. According to the report, Cult of Mac installed watchOS 10.3 on an Apple Watch Series 6 and an Apple Watch Series 7, and the blood oxygen application continues to function on both. News of a couple of updates that I sort of wish we didn't know about, for all the good it's going to do us to know about them. Applicable to lots of people listening right now, MacRumors says Apple has released a firmware update for AirPods 2 and AirPods Pro. We have no idea what the firmware update does, and there's no way to get the update. No active way, anyway. According to the report, the firmware is generally installed over the air while the AirPods are connected to an iOS device. Putting the AirPods in the case, connecting the AirPods to a power source, and then pairing the AirPods to an iOS device or Mac should force the update. Now, negligible as that knowledge may be, news of an update you can ignore even more. 9to5Mac says the first OS update for Apple Vision Pro has been spotted, assuming the device ships with visionOS 1.0. According to that report, self-proclaimed Git repository surgeon Nicholas Alvarez broke the news that visionOS 1.0.1 was released by Apple Tuesday night as a Delta over-the-air software update. What should you do with this information, asked the site? Hype. Getting even more excited for the Apple Vision Pro launch on the 2nd of February is the only actionable response. Or getting more depressed. Whichever. iOS 17.4 is coming soon to an iPhone near you, likely bringing with it some sizable changes for folks in Europe. MacRumors starts the countdown, noting that Apple has until the 6th of March to fully comply with the EU's Digital Markets Act, or DMA, which among other things will require the company to allow iPhone users to install apps outside of the App Store. With the deadline for this regulation fast approaching, it is likely that Apple will begin preparing for those changes with iOS 17.4. That likely puts the operating system's release 42 days away, if not sooner. The report goes on to say that Apple is expected to add support for both third-party app stores and app sideloading on the iPhone for users in EU countries, including Austria, Belgium, man. Belgium. Italy, France, Germany, the Netherlands, Spain, Sweden, and others. The site says the first beta for iOS 17.4 could roll out to developers as soon as this week. That said, the piece says it's unclear whether DMA-related changes will grace the early betas or be held back until closer to public release. Apple's opening one store and closing another in Sweden. MacRumors says the Cupertino company has announced a new retail location set for the Mall of Scandinavia near Stockholm. That'll open sometime this year, though Apple has not said when exactly. Apple has 3 stores in Sweden, though it appears set to cap it at that number for now. As the Mall of Scandinavia store preps an open, Apple's Vala Centrum store in Sweden is set to close permanently. Exactly when that will happen has also not been disclosed. Apple Car is the future of electric vehicles, and it always will be. And if that didn't sound like a veiled insult, my inflection was off. 9 to 5 Mac ran a piece Tuesday highlighting a Bloomberg report. According to the other, Apple has shifted focus on its automotive plans. It'll now do less of its own driving than had been hoped, and it will be later than anticipated. According to the piece, Bloomberg says the 2028 car will offer limited autonomy features in line with what is offered by other electric vehicle manufacturers like Tesla. The Apple Car will require drivers to pay attention and be ready to take over as the car drives itself on roads and highways, similar to the current Tesla autopilot system. Some site, can't remember which one, but some site I saw said something to the effect of, Apple Car has been 4 years off for years now. Put another way, Apple Car is the future of electric vehicles, and it always will be. Perhaps the good news in the news, now that they're apparently not trying to make the car drive itself, they might actually be able to roll something off the line. But Bloomberg indicates that some employees are critical of the plans, suggesting that it is merely a Me Too product. And finally today, it is Apple's biggest Academy Award season to date. 2024 Oscar nominations were announced Tuesday, and Apple Originals are up for a lucky-sounding 13 trophies. The Cupertino streamer issued a press release yesterday laying those out. It is 10 nominations for Killers of the Flower Moon and 3 for Napoleon. The 3 nominations for Napoleon include Best Costume Design, Best Production Design, and Best Visual Effects. For Killers of the Flower Moon, nominations include Best Costume Design, Best Production Design, Best Original Score, Robbie Robertson, Best Original Song, Wasage, A Song for My People by Scott George, Best Cinematography, Rodrigo Prieto, Best Film Editing, Thelma Schoonemaker, Best Actor in a Supporting Role, Robert De Niro, Best Actress in a Leading Role, Lily Gladstone, Best Director, Martin Scorsese, and the big one, Best Picture. The nominations aren't just history-making for Apple, they're history-making for Gladstone, for Scorsese, and for the Academy. According to the release, Gladstone makes history as the first Native American to land a nomination for Best Actress, and Indigenous artists Robbie Robertson and Scott George are recognized with first-ever nominations in the Best Original Score and Best Original Song categories, respectively. Additionally, George is the first member of the Osage Nation to be nominated for an Academy Award. As for Scorsese, this is his 10th Oscar nomination for Best Director. That makes him the most nominated living director, according to the release. The Oscars go to whom they will go in about a month and a half. The 96th Academy Awards ceremony will be held on Sunday, the 10th of March. macOS Ken, brought to you by me, and supported by people like you, patrons through Patreon. Find out more and add your support at patreon.com/MacOSKen. Advertising handled by Backbeat Media, online at backbeatmedia.com. You can reach me a couple of ways. Info at macosken.com or call 716-780-4080. Until next time, that is news from macOS Ken. I'm Ken Ray.
Ciao.